Well, we're recording this series of interviews with top talent from the wealth sector and speaking to a number of our Next Gen Committee members, including Stefan Le Marquand from HIGHVERN. Welcome to you, Stefan.
Thank you, David. Nice to be here.
So you're one of our key members of our Next Gen Committee and community, because you've been along to a number of events over the years, and it's always great to have you there. People haven't met you. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about your background.
So my name's Stefan. I've been with HIGHVERN since October 2018, originally from Jersey, and then in 2020 I moved to London to actually set up our UK office. As for working with PCD though, I've probably been on the committee now for about the same length of time, of about 5 years, and having seen it grow from its very humble beginnings in lockdown to what it is now, and everything that you've done is phenomenal and great to be a part of it.
Fantastic. Well, HIGHVERN, people in the sector will know the name, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about what HIGHVERN does and why you think it's sort of unique in what it does in the space?
Yeah, of course. So HIGHVERN is a trust and corporate services provider at its heart, and historically, originally part of the Coutts Co Trust business, and then November 2016, we had a spin out and a management buyout by our two shareholders then. That was when we were really targeting the Jersey market and at its core, just really enhancing that independent trustee service. And then over the space of the next 5 years, we grew out the business and we built out a funds business in Jersey. We've then started moving into other jurisdictions, so London, Dublin, Cayman. Now, most recently, 2025, we had a capital injection from a single family office, and we are now partnered with a Nordic fund investment firm called Permira. At its core, though, we still retain that independence, and we have such a small shareholding as well. There's no private equity interest. So for that, it makes it really special, and I think it means that we're just as much into the business as clients are into the business as well.
And what does your role look like? I mean, there is no sort of typical day or typical week, but what does it comprise of?
Yeah, so for me, again, based in the UK, running our onshore domestic private client function, it can look anything from, one day I'm dealing with employment issues for domestic staff, another day I'm trying to negotiate a client out of a property and into a new one. Other days I'm sitting in investment management reviews and sitting down with clients talking about what does the future look like for them and how do they want that structure to work for them, their families in the future.
In terms of the geographies the clients and families might reside in, what's the geographic makeup like of the client base?
Yeah, so in our offshore territories, we are still quite heavily focused in the Middle East. So predominantly about 30% there. The remainder is mostly historically known as UK Res Non-Dom, but we're seeing more and more people who are moving out to Western Europe, Italy, Switzerland, France even, and also there is a growing trend of Americans wanting to get more involved in structuring. Domestically in the UK though, we're seeing probably about 50 to 60% are fully domestic UK clients, or clients who have moved to the UK. And then there is still a subset of clients who have domestic UK interests, but they are based, again, internationally, so Middle East, Far East Asia, and quite a bit, again, Western Europe.
But also Jersey has really benefited, hasn't it, from like highly mobile, high net worth clients, and the younger profile of client is coming to Jersey and then setting up structures and running businesses from there, isn't it?
Hugely, and we're seeing that's probably been the biggest trend we've seen, is this shift from the very traditional hold an investment portfolio, let it do its thing. We're seeing so many more entrepreneurial clients come in who have set up these incredible businesses, had these wonderful liquidity events, and the structures themselves are becoming far more complicated. We're seeing quite a dramatic rise at the moment on very private fund structures, where you'll have sort of family investors. You may have at most 10 investors, but the scale of these is sort of pushing now into the hundreds of millions, making direct investment into private equity and almost rivaling some of the investment houses.
So that can put some governance around what would be a club deal between people who perhaps know each other, but to formalise that through a private fund gives them scope going forward.
Exactly, and it's something that I think people really underestimate, just how useful it can be to pool your investments, but also still have that very small family approach and almost a dynastic approach to investing. It also means that clients have a lot more control over how the investments are governed, who has authority to move, shift, and also tends to make exiting investments far quicker as well.
Do you think there are any trend? A lot is written about the next gen clients having different tastes and styles and looking at structuring and succession planning in a different way. Do you think there's something in that, or it's a bit of a simplification to summarise?
No, I think there is definitely a real shift in dynamic, and on the one hand, we're seeing clients coming in with much more risk tolerance when it comes to the nature of investments. They're a lot more financially switched on and a lot more keen to get involved in things like private equity. Some even want to dabble in crypto. But the fascinating thing that we've been seeing is a lot of these clients are setting up multiple structures. One where they have their play fund, if you will, where they can be a bit more experimental. But at its core, we're still running those very traditional, balanced portfolio, if you will. You might have a cash holding, you might have some fixed deposits in there. So we are really there to bring about the tradition, the heritage, and the long-term thinking to what tends to be a next gen's much more short-term and fiery personalities, I would say.
Having in the portfolio digital assets, crypto, or even luxury assets, yachts and jets it creates complexity, doesn't it, versus owning a building somewhere that's not going anywhere?
Oh, hugely. And we've seen it in the crypto space, particularly where even just getting trustees comfortable with understanding who holds that, who holds the token, who holds the wallet, who can access it, what sign-offs are required. It almost feels a little counterintuitive to the original concept of crypto being this decentralized asset class. But even going back to the more traditional esoteric assets, I suppose, looking at art in particular, that has always been an asset class that has moved around. It's a very transient asset class, and there is, I think, a real shift now to a much more engaged community in that space as well, where it's no longer the last bastion of unregulated asset classes, but a big
it's maturing, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, and also I think advisors need to start maturing on that as well. And it's no longer the case that you can just appoint an art advisor and be done with it. I think we are now in a position where your trustees need to understand what are these pieces, what's the provenance, what's your inventory, and what's your intention for collecting as well. And it's all well and good to say, I think these are beautiful objects, but are they an investment? And does the next generation of client even want them?
Absolutely. Do you travel back and forth between here and Jersey, or what's your travel pattern sort of look like as you need to?
Historically, I was very much engaging with our Jersey base, and a lot of that was just through bridging that gap and sort of building that network as well of many of our clients, as I mentioned, are UK resident. There is connectivity there. But now that the UK business over the last 5 years has sort of grown its own legs, we're now seeing a lot more travel out to Switzerland, and we are going to be starting to make a move hopefully into Milan, and also just getting more involved in these jurisdictions where clients still love London. London doesn't necessarily work for them in all cases. And so actually how can we best work with them to build a base here, but also build them a base internationally as well? And I think a recent family office report I read is that most family offices now generally will have about 3 or 4 jurisdictions that they're operating in. It's
optionality, isn't it? It's creating the ability to do things differently, isn't it? I think, and yeah, you're having to adapt and create new networks, aren't you, off the back of that?
Exactly, and I think as well there's a lot of culture shift that's happening as well with the idea of, I think a lot of jurisdictions used to be quite inward focusing and quite insular in their networks. It was very much a case of if you structure in Jersey, it stays in Jersey, or if you structure in Switzerland, it stays in Switzerland. And I think as clients are breaking down those borders, institutions are having to break them down as well.
Well, what's your advice for people building up networks, or people just getting started in the professional space? What would you think that you've done that you'd think I'd recommend doing that?
My one piece of advice that is kind of my ride or die, if you will, is just be yourself. People will remember characters and people want to work with people. So if you are just putting on this quote unquote corporate facade, yes, that's important for representing your business and the firm that you work for. But if you don't have a personal brand, then you don't really have any hook to engage with people. The other thing I would say is just be present and put yourself out there. You've got nothing to lose, and the worst thing that people can do is say no. But at least by being out there and
be visible and
exactly, it's really just about, it is terrifying to go into some of these environments where you don't know anyone, and that's why having a network like PCD was such a huge springboard for me, especially as someone who moved to London, didn't really know where to start. And then from there, absolutely, you'll cherry pick out the people that you want to spend time with, and you'll build those connections naturally. But that's probably the other thing, is just don't force it either. You're not going to gel with everyone.
And we're halfway through the year now. Have you got anything, what's planned for the second half? Are there anything on the horizon you're working on that's interesting, exciting?
So I think I'm pleased to say that after the first half, which was filled with immigration and business structuring for clients who are setting up business here in the UK, they are coming to us not only as corporate services providers, but also as trusted advisors who will be able to get on the ground, get them what they need, from ICT networks to marketing, websites. We're there to introduce people and be that trusted advisor. I'm hoping that coming into the year, the second half of this year though, we're going to be doing a lot more work with kind of governance and, it's great that you've been able to build this business, but now how are you running it effectively? And what controls can we put in place that put your mind at ease as a very high net worth client, but also means that you can become autonomous as well. And I think that is generally a huge missing link that we're seeing a lot with clients and their advisors, is everyone's there for the setup and the structuring. It's so well advised, but then you kind of hit a point where, what do we do now? And that's where we want to come in and sort of plug that gap as a trusted advisor and professional advisor.
Fantastic. Well, if people are along at the November lunch, encourage them to say hello to you and get to know more. But Stefan, thank you so much for talking to me today, and we look forward to sharing this interview.
No, my pleasure, David. Thank you again.